I'd like to call to order the Township Council meeting for the month of October. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First item on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing National Fire Protection Week. Benita, if you would kindly handle that as our public safety liaison, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a proclamation for Fire Prevention Month, October 2024, whereas in the United States, the first presidential proclamation of Fire Prevention Week was made in 1925 by President Calvin Coolidge. And whereas each year during the month of October, the Concordville Fire and Protective Association takes this opportunity to remind our residents of the devastating impact fire has on each of us. And whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You, effectively serves to remind us of the importance of working smoke alarms. And whereas, according to the National Fire Protection Association data, most U.S. homes, fire deaths continue to occur in homes with no smoke alarms or no working smoke alarms. And whereas having working smoke alarms in the home reduces the risk of dying in a home fire by more than half, 54%. And whereas residents should be reminded of the following: to install smoke alarms in every bedroom, outside each separate sleeping area, like a hallway, and on each level, including basement of the home. To test smoke alarms at least once a month by pushing the test button to provide alarms for family members of all abilities, and to replace smoke alarms when they are 10 years old or don't respond when tested. Now, therefore, the Council of Concord Township does hereby proclaim October 24th as Fire Prevention Month and urges all residents to participate in Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through October 12th, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Concordville Fire and Protective Association.
That is in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think we have some members of the fire company here. If you'd like to come forward and we'll get a picture, we'll present that proclamation to you in person. All right, next is a recognizing the Pennock E. Sharpless House on the National Register of Historic Places. Mr. Crossan, would you kindly handle that for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this is just a recognition that we received the news that the Pennock E. Sharpless House in the historic district of Ward, which is one of the original historic districts of Concord Township, which people would know on Concord Road around Il Granell, is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The nomination was researched and compiled by the Concord Township Historical Society board member and volunteer Emma Luschner, and the property is the first National Register listing for Concord Township in 34 years. We extend congratulations to the homeowners, Mr. and Mrs. Gogler, for their hard work restoring the house in the last few years, to the Concord Township Historical Society for this exciting achievement, recognizing the legacy of our community.
So that is, the recognition is in form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and money to fix that house up, but he did do a beautiful job. Upcoming meetings and events. October 3rd, the Park and Rec Board meeting. October 9th, the Historical Commission meeting. October 10th, the Senior Citizen Expo right next door here at 9 a.m. at the Field House. October 14th, the Planning Commission meeting. October 16th, the Zoning Hearing Board meeting. October 19th, over at the Township Garage and complex over on Smithbridge Road will be the Recycle Day and Tree Giveaway, where we will take, we also have the shredding event, and you can bring unused or expired medications also,
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
And that is normally rain or shine.
Oh, yeah,
we
you've
usually-
heard me give credit to this council
Yeah, we've
about
done
the
more
rain.
We've done more rain than shine, but it's
Yeah,
also, it's
definitely. We
always there.
do more rain than shine.
Yes, okay,
We do our best in the rain.
yes. Okay, October 26th, Harvest Festival and Pet Costume Parade, 12 p.m. Is that at the park, or is that at?
That's it, Bush Hill.
Bush Hill. And then on October 29th, if needed, the council agenda meeting. Moving into the reports, Dana, I think you have a quarterly finance report for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Here are some highlights to this quarter's report. As of 9/30/24, our general fund revenues are at 69% of our anticipated budget, which is slightly less than expected due to realty transfer tax and licenses and permits from our codes department. We are anticipating commercial projects to begin in the fourth quarter that will get us more in line with budget expectations. The township received approximately $150,000 towards our minimum municipal obligation, MMO, which was allocated between the township and sewer department based on our current year payroll expenses. To date, we received approximately $279,000, which is 50% of estimated cost in our insurance claim to repair the township building and community center roofs. The township will receive the remaining balance for this project once final inspection is completed. Our general fund operating expenses is 79% of our anticipated budget. The rise in maintenance costs and unexpected but necessary repairs of township-owned properties and equipment, along with our winter maintenance, is the reason operating expenses are slightly higher than this time last year. Management is closely monitoring fourth quarter projects to make sure we are in line with our anticipated budgeted expenses. The ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, has 7 projects allocating approximately $1.5 million with year-to-date cost of approximately $880,000. 4 projects remain in progress, which will have updates later tonight. $310,000 is remaining from funds received that will be allocated in 2025. Our 4 grant-funded capital projects have received $604,000 in reimbursements towards the $1.3 million cost year-to-date. Important dates to remember: November 1st, the draft budget will be available on the township's website. Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. is the public meeting with open discussion for the 2025 budget. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Benita?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of our residents, our Concordville Fire Prevention Association folks. Thank you for everything that you do to keep us safe and rescue us at times of need. I want to also, for the Fire Prevention Week this month, I will hand over the remainder of the time for you, for your presentation, and you can take it over.
The first part. That's the one. Good evening. I'm Tom Noss, captain with Concord Fire Company, and going to speak to the council about our staffing levels. specifically. So over the last several years, not just our area, but across the country, we have been experiencing a decrease in volunteer staffing. So with that, we've had to hire more people, both full-time and part-time. So about 20 years ago, a program was started with 2 full-time employees. Fast forward to today, we have 10 full-time employees along with 30 part-time employees to supplement our staff. So as we look at our organizational chart, that at one point was all volunteer staff members. So the top tier, the top 4 positions are still volunteer, with the balance of that being career staff members. So obviously that comes with a cost, and each year our cost does increase. And we're also in almost a bidding war with other organizations as far as retaining employees. And I know that we're not unique in that. Finding people to work can be a challenge, but there are other fire departments and EMS organizations offering some higher salaries in some places, which sometimes make it difficult to attract new employees. So we look at our fire incidents by the time of day. The busiest time tends to be in the evening. That's when people are out and about, but that does not reduce the risk of a potential incident. So in the middle of the night when we're all typically sleeping, I know the incidents do look to be quite significantly lower than what we see in the daytime, but that does not mean something significant cannot happen. So what we have is 3 firefighters in the building to respond to emergencies in the middle of the night. So one of the issues that we are facing currently is that we have to use 2 of those firefighters to staff an ambulance. So when we have a second emergency for the ambulance division, that's utilized, staffed with 2 firefighters, therefore leaving 1 firefighter in the fire station to staff a fire truck. So the trouble we have with that is we can't do a whole lot of firefighting or rescue with 1 person. So we are going to need more people. We're going to need people to staff the ambulances, and we're going to need additional people eventually to staff that fire truck. So we're working right now to close that gap in our staffing. So we also need support from the communities that we serve in order to achieve that. So speaking in line with that, up until the first 8 months of the year, there were 209 EMS incidents that we had to use firefighters to staff the ambulance. And what that did was leave the fire truck unstaffed. So we do rely on volunteers to come from home, but anybody that lives and works in this area knows that, especially in the daytime, it's very difficult to get around our township. Traffic has not just been a problem during rush hour now. After COVID, traffic can be quite heavy all throughout the day. So I don't blame anyone that's trying to come from home from being discouraged to trying to get up to the fire station. So presents a couple problems. One, somebody getting to the firehouse, then they would have to get on the fire truck and drive to where the emergency is. So time is of the essence in our business, and we're trying to cut down on the response times for us to get to these emergencies. So right now in the daytime, we do have 4 firefighters staffing the fire station along with 2 EMTs to staff the ambulance. We're trying to increase that to a 24/7 service model. So that currently is in the works. It's just some information from the National Fire Protective Agency in regarding what we are looking for in terms of adequate staffing to arrive on scene in the appropriate amount of time. So we're not meeting the mark on that. And we know that right off the bat. And how do we correct that? We need additional staffing in the building around the clock. So I thank you for your time. I'm going to pass the mic over to our EMS captain, Joe O'Leary.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As Tom said, my name's Joe O'Leary. I'm the EMS captain at Concordville. Thanks for a couple minutes of your time tonight. What I have here, Tom did a bulk of the work in the beginning of the presentation. What I was kind of giving you here is something that mirrors the EMS side of the house as far as volume goes. As you can see, the volume for EMS has been pretty significant. It continues to grow year over year. So the way that Concordville EMS currently operates is we have 1 transport-capable ALS unit. We call that a MICU, and that's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a paramedic and an EMT. The BLS ambulances are staffed with either EMS-only folks, which are EMTs, or firefighter EMTs. So what you see there in the data is the The incidents in blue were handled by our ALS unit, which is the MICU, and that was 2,175 calls so far this year. The incidents handled by our BLS unit, which is our EMTs, has been 905. Incidents handled by our mutual aid companies have been 85, and that's a combination of Longwood Fire Company, Riddle Hospital, Booth Wind Fire Company, Aston Township, and when Bethel was partnered with Crozier and there was a unit there, that will be Crozier volume as well. Our total EMS incidents so far for this year are 3,165. Obviously, the information that we gave you was information from January through August. That's not inclusive of a year-over-year analysis of our EMS volume. Incidents where Concordville EMS could not respond. Several reasons why that would happen. No unit available, and that simultaneously we may have 4 or more emergencies in town. Starting to come up just a little bit more frequently that we have emergencies that are beyond our capabilities because we're out of vehicles essentially. So we tend to send a fire truck over to make first contact. If one of us are available, we'll go over in our vehicle and get started on some first aid if we have the chief's car or we have capability. But most times we are tracking that at this point, which we've never tracked before, just to figure out exactly how much mutual aid is coming into our town. Staff committed on a fire emergency, 17. Why is that significant? That's significant because the firefighter EMTs that Captain Noss talked about that were being shared by the fire service are committed on a fire emergency, which leaves nobody at the firehouse for the ambulance. And then that would make a total of 85 emergencies this year. Our goal would be, a need would be to put the second ambulance in service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to be able to accommodate that volume without having to take firefighters off the fire apparatus to staff the ambulance. We do have a desire to obtain an ALS license. We feel that that best serves the community. And one of the things that we've found has been most difficult is that ALS unit, that single vehicle is the only vehicle that's licensed ALS. So having our own ALS license would give us the ability to rotate those vehicles, be a little bit more fiscally responsible with the maintenance and kind of share the wear and tear. And then, our mutual aid is coming from a long distance, and that's significant. When we talk about those 85 times that we had somebody cover us, so far this year, that's significant because you're waiting for Riddle Hospital, for media, you're waiting for Longwood, Upper Chi, and there's no EMS currently in Bethel Township, so that does provide a little bit of a challenge when you're talking about, contingent on where that emergency may be and where mutual aid may be coming from. So the support to be able to put that second ambulance in service to get a first responder to the emergency in the timeliest manner is really important for us, and we appreciate the support that, we've gotten so far, and we just wanted to be transparent and above board on where we are and what the needs are for, the fire and EMS organization moving forward. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to turn it over to Tim O'Leary, no relation, and he's going to handle some of the finances.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Tim O'Leary. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of Concordville Fire Company. And we're going to go to the first page of that. Okay. Go to the next one. There we go. And it's my responsibility here tonight to kind of go through some of the numbers that's related to the growing expenses of having full-time career staff within the volunteer fire service. As you can see, our budget for 2024 was just over $3.7 million, and that left us with a cash deficit of almost $800,000. This is only going to continue to be egregious. As you see, every other year is a budget for a brand new ambulance. That ambulance is costing upwards of $300,000 these days. So 32 years ago, when I got into the fire service, it was 50 grand. So it's a huge, huge increase in the cost of our fire apparatus. And you'll see again, every other year, it's a little lesser. However, when we look at the grand total that we're looking to ask the townships for, the 5-year average is just over $1 million of a deficit that we're seeing within the fire service. So we're here to show you kind of how this is broken down with the townships. So the second set of data there shows you our run total using a 3-year average percentage for the fire calls. So Concord Township, we had 1,560 calls in the township over the last 3 years. So on average, that's 62.3% of our volume for calls. So as you see the highlighted area there in $656,000, $657,000, that is the amount that we are looking for from Concord Township to help fund the operations of the Concordville Fire Company. Third row down, you're going to see the actual breakdown of current contributions. So currently, Concord Township is contributing $360,000, which we're greatly appreciative of, and it does help us on our day-to-day operational expenses. However, it still leaves us with almost a $300,000 deficit that we attribute to the township. And you can see, for all transparency, the percentage of calls that we run in the other townships that we do cover, and the amount of deficit that we're looking to try to make up with those as well. So as a member of the Board of Directors, we wanted to just show this information to you in black and white to show you the struggles. Operating with a deficit in the neighborhood of $1 million on average is just not feasible for us to be able to continue operations.
Can I ask this question with regard to, I understand the percentage of calls and so forth, but is every call equal? Is every call the same thing? So, I mean, if it's a call to Marist Grove and it's right here and it's a half a mile away and it's relatively minor, is that really the same from a drain on resources or a cost per call as, say, something more serious further afield in Birmingham? I mean, doesn't it cost more for you to get to there and handle maybe something more serious there than something more minor at Marist?
But we also have more serious calls in the other townships as well. So we're just trying to show you a breakdown, and I don't know if Captain Noss might be able to speak to maybe some of the differentiations from the fire calls. I mean, for example, this morning at 5:30, tones went out for a carbon monoxide detector. Happened to be in my neighborhood, so I went in my personal vehicle over to assist the residents until the fire truck got there. So again, very minor, happened to be a faulty detector, but it still took our time and resources.
Yeah, and I understand that this is the most efficient and easiest way to allocate costs and so forth. So I'm not trying to weigh the seriousness of something, because obviously everything is serious to whoever has the concern. But does it really truly, is every call an equal cost?
No, it depends on what that call would be and what the required resources would be to respond to that incident. So, as Tim mentioned, responding to a carbon monoxide alarm, that would consist of us sending one piece of fire apparatus and potentially an ambulance if there's a report of sick people. So, versus if there was a building on fire, which we would require us to have at least 4 pumpers, 2 ladder trucks, and a rescue truck, as well as EMS resources to that. So if it's an actual fire, that cost naturally would be exponentially more than just us responding to a check on a carbon monoxide alarm. So as far as, we don't have the data off the top of our heads as far as how much it costs to respond to a carbon monoxide alarm versus the total cost to respond to an actual building fire.
Sure. So I guess I can appreciate the division of costs here and seeing the percentage of calls and versus the budget and so forth, and attributing 66% or 63% of the budget to Concord. But is that truly reflective of your cost, that 63% of your costs really truly are dedicated to Concord, or do you have any other ways that you have looked at the numbers and the impact and the cost that you have sliced this?
So I believe that the most fair and equitable way that we arrived at this mechanism was by doing that, was to break it down in that regard. Fortunately, we don't have building fires every day, but pardon me, there's a cost of readiness that we are available at any time of the day or night to respond. And unfortunately, they're not planned events. So it's not like a standby. If we're having a community day, the emergencies can happen potentially whenever. And the severity, I would say there could be a greater risk in Concordville because we do respond to more incidents in Concordville.
I guess I'm just wondering if this particular cutting of the numbers inflates the number for Concord versus if we were to look at it in terms of true cost per these things. For example, some of these communities that don't really have fire hydrant service and so forth, and responding to the incidents there takes longer to get to. They don't have fire hydrants, et cetera. So while there may be fewer incidences, they cost more per incident than maybe perhaps in Concord. And so I'm wondering if there is a way that to me, I see that number as likely being the high end of our responsibility, so to speak, as opposed to another way of looking at it.
So what we could do, we could certainly reach out to some of our mutual aid partners who are in similar situations and see how they measure that. And we could certainly come back to you with our findings. But currently, we do not have a dollar-for-dollar breakdown on what the incident may cost us.
I appreciate it.
So
Thank you.
hopefully, I was able to answer your question with some degree of success.
Yeah, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions or comments. On our agenda, it says Concordville Fire and Protective Association. So the word volunteer doesn't apply, that doesn't appear in any of your literature?
On the website, it does show that we are a volunteer fire organization with our own career staff.
With the remarks that you made about the lack of volunteers, not only here, but throughout the state and the country, it's just dwindling to all fire companies eventually are going to be fully paid or part-time paid and not volunteer. So I'm just concerned about the names that you use, the word volunteer. So whether you folks address that at any of your meetings or not, that maybe you should not use that term volunteer? Or?
Well, the organization's been around since 1928, so I don't think they're going to change the name of the organization or the association.
Yeah. The other comment was, it was remarked that if you're close by a situation and it's not part of your routine, that you just jump in your car and you go and you help out.
Mm-hmm.
What about the liability of that person, whoever he or she may be, in doing the wrong thing? And,
So as volunteers, we are
Right.
covered under the state as far as a Goodwill Act.
okay. So liability is not a concern there.
If I'm doing something that's egregious, above my skill set, or out of my scope of control, you could see where that could be held liable. However, if I'm acting within my own capacity as a volunteer firefighter and EMT, then I'm well within my right to lend that assistance.
Yeah.
And there's rigorous. And the reason we're not getting volunteers is the amount of hours in order to complete Fire 1. When I was a kid going through it, it was 32 hours down in Dover. Fire 2, 32 hours down in Dover. Now it's 180, 200 hours in order to complete Fire 1.
Yeah.
And the time commitment is almost unbearable for folks.
Yeah, I guess where I'm coming from is not so much on the fire end of it, but the ambulance. If you had somebody there that is not a trained technician, EMT, whatever you want to call it, they do something that's wrong. I mean, do you have cross-training that people know that they shouldn't do certain things?
Sure. So we have first responders as well as EMT as well as medics, whether they're acting in capacity as a volunteer or that's their career. So they're taught not to go above their degree of training.
Good. That's very assuring. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? Benita?
I do have a question. I do want to thank you all for what you do. We appreciate it. Everybody, all the residents do appreciate it. On the additional amount requested, so obviously we know Concord Township does take the lion's share here. Is this based on the calls coming in from the township, or is this based on the population of the township, or?
Part of it is, well, number one, this is based on the calls. So the 1,560 calls that we ran in Concord Township cumulative over the last 3 years represents an average of 62.3% of the calls per year run in Concord. Concord is, I'm going to guess, the largest township that we do cover, and as well as the largest population. So that's another reason why there's probably a slightly higher weighting towards Concord Township.
Okay, and currently how many ambulances which are good for basic life support versus the ones that we use for advanced life support do we have, and how many fire trucks do we have currently that serve our township?
I could sum it up, but we'll let Joe take it.
That's right. So for our MICU or ALS-capable transport units, we have one of those in service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have a second BLS unit that's available 24/7, and then we have a third ambulance that's in service during peak hours that is cross-staffed with fire personnel to be able to handle that. So the answer to your question is we have 3 licensed BLS units, 1 licensed ALS unit, and the last unit is a spare, if you will, but it is licensed as a BLS. But 2 are in a BLS an ALS, and then we have a power truck as well.
So these three basically take care of all the townships that we have, right, within your jurisdiction?
That's correct, and then mutual aid as well, if we're called for mutual aid somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of fire apparatus, we have 2 pumpers, a tower ladder, which is a ladder truck with a bucket on the end of it. We have a rescue pumper, which responds primarily to motor vehicle crashes. We also have a tanker that we have to maintain due to a good portion of the 4 townships that we cover don't have hydrants. There are still some areas of Concord Township that do not have hydrants, and therefore we would have to truck the water in a sense. And we also maintain a brush truck, which is a pickup truck to get out into fields for field fires.
Okay. And the fire trucks that, I know because fire trucks also are sent to the scene of auto accidents.
Correct.
That occur. Is there any prioritization of which one you use, or?
So that depends on the nature of the dispatch. If we're dispatched for a motor vehicle accident, we will take our rescue truck. And if we're dispatched for a building fire, we'll take the pumper first out.
Okay.
And if it's a brush fire, we'll take the brush fire, and we use that also for like trees and wires. We'll go investigate with that smaller piece. It's cheaper to operate that pickup truck as opposed to a $700,000 pumper for a lower acuity call such as that.
Okay.
Thank you.
From a communication perspective, do you do any communication broad communication to the residents of the townships you serve, communicating this information? Or do you rely on the townships to convey this? I mean, obviously these numbers are not good. The situation is not good. It requires tax increases, et cetera, so, but to what extent do you take responsibility for communicating your situation to the residents?
So in terms of staffing, up until now, we were leaving it up to our township partners. So moving forward, we need to do a better job as an organization to sound that alarm and to get that word out to each of the residents in the communities that we serve that we do need help. And while we're doing the absolutely best that we can, we're going to need assistance. So
Yeah, no, I think that's important, and I would encourage, there's a number of ways, obviously, to raise the money. The one direct way is obviously through soliciting the townships, but that requires us to raise the taxes and thereby communicate that to the residents as well. But, I feel like at some level we're sort of passing this through, right? This is, which to a degree we're happy to do, but then you're also relying on multiple different townships and their various communication methods versus sort of owning that yourself to sound your own alarm and say, here's our unified message to all of the residents that we serve of our need, and if you see your taxes increase, this is why. I think seeing that message come directly from you would be helpful as well, and obviously we're happy to reinforce that since we take the responsibility for tax increases.
I think part of that is why we're here tonight as well. This is the township meeting, and residents are always encouraged to attend. I'm pretty sure I saw a Zoom link for the meeting as well, so.
We have 3 here out of 18,000. So that's right. We have our weekly newsletters. We have an annual print newsletter, et cetera. So even our communications are imperfect. But to the extent that you do a newsletter yourself, or you do a postcard or something like that, your stats are pretty straightforward. I don't know how that it needs tremendous elaboration, but I think any sort of mail from you, not necessarily soliciting dollars, but explaining your position would be helpful.
Yeah, we do solicit. We do have our ambulance fund drive, we do have our fire fund drive. So we do solicit and get contributions from that as well. But I'd also, from the ambulance side of things, and Joe can attest to this, that actually helps the citizens if they are in need, and we do respond, that if there's any gap in coverage there from what they're covered from their medical insurance versus what that ambulance trip costs, we're able to at least give a break from that regard. So I think us always asking for the fund drive helps us as well.
Okay. One other question. We'll get to you in a minute. You have breakdown of current township contributions as of 2023. We, at the beginning of this year, raised the fire tax to give you guys a few more bucks. that's not, actually, so that's not reflected in that number.
No, that is solely on 2023.
So I'm assuming that the new number is up around 4.25?
So the budget that we had set for, this is all townships together, was $588,000 for 2024.
Well, it says 2023.
Yeah, I'm looking at a separate, which probably is in the chart as well, for the slide deck. You could advance it.
Oh. Never mind. One with a little emblem on it. Come on, Amanda. Well, anyway,
Everyone yelling at me.
Yeah, no. I'm providing the numbers that we were given from the treasurer, so,
Chad's Ford did.
so I don't have the exact
Okay.
contribution total
But
for,
let's go back to the one that started my question.
okay.
Amanda, you think you can find that one?
Page,
No, the one you had on.
page 2?
I believe the one we were watching, that was the projected, right? It was a 5-year projected.
That page, yes.
No, if I'm looking at that second box from the bottom, it says breakdown of current township contributions.
Correct.
As of 2023, we raised the taxes to the residents of Concord Township, I think by a total of 5%, with all the money going to the fire company, effective
You know-
2024.
It's interesting, so, I apologize, I
Yeah.
just noticed the typo on here. So, that as of 2023, on my printout as of 2024, so
So that's as of 2024, not as of 2023.
that's correct.
That
I just-
slide
I just
there-
noticed that typo here.
The date is wrong. Okay.
Yes, sir, sorry.
That's too bad, because that's not working in my favor.
I apologize.
But what you're asking us, and I got to applaud you guys, having lived out here as many years as I have and having real estate in another municipality, the fact that you got them to dedicate a fire tax was a feat that you should be applauded for, because they never want to pay anything. I was in a meeting there one night where they wanted you to bill the people who were in the car accidents to clean up their cars. And so you did a good job with that. But if I'm looking at your number, then if the total tax millage to the township, that the township charges its residents solely for fire protection, we would damn near have to double that tax to meet what you're after.
That's correct.
Which we cannot do.
And I understand that.
Well, yeah, well, we're sort of tied by our charter that we can't do more than 5%.
5%, yeah.
But if we did do it, we would have to reaffirm it every year. One of the other things was the numbers that you're projecting here. You mentioned, I think one of you gentlemen did earlier, that you wanted to get another type of ambulance, and you're going to need some more firefighters. Does this cover this? Those additional personnel and/or equipment costs?
That was factored in to the projections, right?
No, this doesn't just fund the status quo. This funds,
So-
you mentioned there was I forget the 4 letters you used for the unit, and then I think also for extra firefighters.
Yeah, for the ILS,
McHugh.
there would be no additional cost for that. That would just be a change in our list.
But how about, you say you have how many firefighters on the payroll now? 4?
We currently have a total of 10 full-time firefighters and 30 part-time firefighters.
Okay, but will you be able to, these numbers reflect paying for that number of personnel? If you need more personnel,
right.
naturally, those numbers go up.
Yeah, so our budget for 2024, 1.6 million, 1.612. For 2025 is 1.668. Obviously, as the staffing level goes up, our costs for insurance go up as well as, again, continuing to project out from a rate of inflation side of things. So we are trying to project it out. And like I said, these are all audited reports that we have.
All right, I I just want to understand that. I do agree with Mr. Crossan and my colleagues on the board that this needs to be communicated not only in Concord, but in all the townships, and probably not just in the townships in western Delaware County. I'm sure this is happening statewide, if not nationally. The days of the volunteer fire departments, at least in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, are long gone, I think. And the only way to do it is to pay for it. You left us quite a problem to solve. We will be paying all diligence towards it. I don't know how effective we're going to be able to solve it overnight, but we're going to have to really do some thinking on this and some facts and communicate this better with the public. If we do get to that point, maybe my colleagues would consider having a special public meeting, even if we have it at the firehouse, where you guys do this presentation and we'll invite the public there. I mean, you need the money. They ought to see what they're paying for.
Yep.
And that's how I would feel about it.
Appreciate it.
We normally don't take questions till later, but since you're here, let's do this one now. Everybody okay with that?
I just have a suggestion. I'm Jim Tucker, 86 Mendenhall Drive.
Yeah, we have you on speed dial. We're good.
Yeah. I've been a resident for 36 years, paying into the fire department every year. My suggestion would be, I get a letter once a year, says contribute this much money. Doesn't tell me what I'm doing that for, how it's being allocated or anything else. I might suggest you break it down for the residents a little more than $50 a year or whatever it is at the moment. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was exactly the suggestion.
Anything? Yeah, come on up. No, like I said, we're going to break the tradition or the format because we got these guys here. Fortunately, nothing must have burned down since you've been here or anything, so we're good.
Kathy Schlenk, 159 Bethel Road. Why don't you ask us to double our contribution? As, you know, if we have a reason, but when you give a certain amount, we say, oh, okay, that's good. But to double the amount for fire and protection?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. The one thing those of you, the residents, would have noticed if you looked at your ambulance fund drive this year, it actually did have a $10 increase.
Yes.
And, I mean, so if we break that down, that is helping some, but it's still a drop in the bucket.
There's still a problem, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, and I appreciate our residents chiming in. It sounds like there's a willingness to contribute more from their own end. I don't think any of us, them included, knows that's going to solve the whole problem, but it might help us a heck of a lot. Okay?
Wonderful.
So you might be seeing something or getting a request from us to have a future meeting maybe at the firehouse.
Okay.
On a slow night, so figure out what night that is, okay? All
Throw a
right.
dart.
Thank you.
Dominic, can I just add one quick thing just to say about
Quickly,
the
go
fire
ahead.
company? Is that as having worked in other municipalities and being involved in things across the state that have to do with fire service, I really want to point out how grateful we are that you are running as a business properly with audits and able to do all of these things and have professionals in places that are able to do that, because a lot of communities aren't lucky to have that. And I would just like to point out that great portion of the service that they are able to provide is having that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
All right, moving right along in the agenda, open space, trails, and recreation. Mr. Crossan.
Thank you, Mr. Pileggi. Mr. President, I should say. Concord Community Day was a tremendous success. We had thousands of guests enjoy the beautiful afternoon, over 60 exhibitors representing local businesses and nonprofits gathered, and of course our fireworks are second to none in the area. There was a Parks for Pollinators Bio Blitz held in Clayton Park on 9/21. Over the course of the week, 400 observations were made by over 70 unique observers who were able to identify over 200 different species of pollinators. We have a bus trip planned coming up on Wednesday, December 11th. Tickets are $125 to go out to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to the American Music Theater to see the production of Joy to the World. I encourage residents to sign up for that. And want to remind all residents that the Concord Township Park improvements are underway. The park, including the playground, walking loop, dog park, pavilion, and volleyball courts will remain open. However, the parking lot is closed for the next week or so while those improvements are under construction.
Or in Public Works, Mr. Gillespie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. regarding the sewer operations. Work has, work has begun on the Robbins Way pump station replacement, and the process should be completed sometime in November. And something on the lighter side, we discovered some fish in our plant clarifier. We had placed koi and goldfish, approximately 6 of them, into our clarifier many years ago, and we have not seen them in a long time. So we assumed that they had died. It seems that they ran deep with all the changes that we've made in recent years and decided a few weeks ago to start surfacing. So, need something to...
Sounds like the plot of a Netflix movie.
Yeah. And then regarding Public Works, many great things happen every month. Just one thing I'd like to highlight, that the staff expanded the parking area located behind 675 Smithbridge Road. That's our Public Works yard. The addition created increased storage for trailers and equipment. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Building and Code Enforcement, Colleen is not here. Her report will be made part of the record. Planning Commission, Larry.
Let's see here. I fell apart pretty quick there. Planning Commission. The agenda meeting was held on September 9th, and the public meeting was canceled for September 16th. 2 new projects, Valley Point Church outdoor improvements, along with Orchard Knoll final review application. They also received a conditional use application for Samkin 322 LLC. That's at 830 Conchester Highway. And as stated earlier, the schedule for the month, October 14th will be their agenda meeting, and October 21st will be our public meeting. That's all for planning.
Amanda, just for a point of clarification, under the new projects, Valley Point Church, that is a sketch plan review only.
Yes, that is correct.
That is not a full land development plan. What that means is they, just what it says, it's a sketch, they bring it in, the planning commission looks at it. None of the comments are binding, but sort of gives them a direction or a feel for what the planning commission feels could be pluses or minuses to the plan. Okay? And then, based on that, if the applicant feels that they want to proceed, then there would be a formal land development plan submitted, and it goes through all the channels. Okay? Solicitor, Mr. Donahue.
Good evening. I'm pleased to report no new litigation. Everything's pretty much status quo.
Okay. Township Engineer, Nate.
Good evening. A few quick updates. Public Works did install some additional speed limit signage on Bethel Road as well as on Polecat Road. Additionally, some deer crossing and watch children signage in those locations. We did request a speed study from PennDOT for Mill Road. Spring Valley Road, unfortunately, has been fits and starts. An additional utility conflict that was identified. We are looking at an alternative pipe solution, so that road is now back to being open. It's probably going to be a few weeks till we get back out there, but again, we're trying to at least get that work done here before the paving season wraps up this winter. And last, the Township Park project is underway, so exciting to see that project. Moore is the contractor. They've been engaged for about a week, 2 weeks now, so we'll stay on top of that, but hopefully that'll wrap up shortly, and we'll have a new entryway, new parking lot for the main Township Park. I believe everything else I have is an agenda item tonight.
Okay.
Is there anything further with the Evergreen North Road situation, parking lot?
You mean in the shops at Britton Lake?
Yeah, shops at Britton Lake.
I think there's been communications with the owners and the owners' representatives, but Mr. Donahue, I don't think there's anything further to report about the Evergreen Drive on the Britton Lake complex side of the center, correct?
No.
All right, maybe we could follow up with them and report back at next meeting, please. Okay, Township Manager, Amanda.
Sure, I'm going to be real brief. Just want to remind everybody of our budget hearing coming up in November on the 19th, especially as we talked about that earlier with the fire company. I want to make sure folks come out and we can, anyone has questions, ideas, anything, please feel free to email me anytime. I'm happy to answer or take any feedback. Thanks.
In the agenda tonight? Okay, moving right along. Oh, I'm sorry.
My
name is Kathy Cureton, 212 Bethel Road. I'd like to thank the township for putting up the no hunting sign. Thank you. Because for the past 4 weeks, I've had 2 to 3 people come in and ask me if they can hunt. And I actually had somebody come in and ask me if they could put a deer stand up in your property because they think the property's mine. So maybe they'll stop. I do have a question. For the past 6 months at the Pennington School project, they have been dumping trash and branches on the north side of the parking lot that's sort of torn up. In the beginning, in the spring, they threw like some trash bags, lumber, and a few metal pieces. Well, over the summer, they've thrown a lot of big branches and a lot of big tree branches. Have they applied for a dumping permit?
Well, I think we'd have to look into that because we don't necessarily have a dumping
Right, but
permit.
if you
You're not
look
allowed
at
to
it,
dump.
it has
It's
grown-
their private property, so I would have to see what's happening and if it's a property
Right.
maintenance
It
issue.
used to be like maybe a 10 or 15-foot long mess, but now as the grass has grown up over it, it's about maybe 20, 30 feet long.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's send the code enforcement
I'll
guys to
send my
check
code
that out.
enforcement crew.
Yeah, because I
that's a
did
good
put something
observation.
in the spring when
Okay.
they started dumping the trash bags in there.
Okay,
I appreciate that,
Fair
thank you.
enough.
But I do appreciate that sign.
Okay.
Thank you.
if we give you another sign, no, never mind. Okay, business items, first item on the consent agenda, which includes approval of the council public meeting minutes of September 3rd, 2024. Dana, I think we have some bills to pay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Total expenditures is $1,310,943.32, which consists of September payroll of $204,511.62, current bills of $876,318.48, and our sewer bills at $230,113.22. Thank you.
Okay. Next would be to reappoint Frank Lamanna to the zoning hearing board, term to expire September of 2029. Amanda, I'd like to jump down to item F for your telling us what that's about, please.
Yep, this is our minimum municipal obligation as part of the pension system. And this is our requirement for 2025. Council is required to acknowledge that every year in October. And then we have that incorporated into our budget for next year. It's our commitment to fund our pension fund.
Okay. Mr. Gillespie, you would handle items D, E, G, and H, please.
Wow, what an assignment, okay. All right, for
Thank you,
certificate.
John. All right.
Regarding certificates of payments, we have 4. First one being certificate number 2 to AJM Electrical. This is for the sewer at Robbins Way Pump Station in the amount of $6,604.97. The balance to finish on that project will be $75,865.07. The next one is certificate number 1 of final payment to Joseph J. Daniel, LLC, for the Concord Woods Stormwater Project, which is funded by ARPA in the amount of $90,697.30. Next one is certificate number 1 of final payment to Moore Construction for the Andrian Road Stormwater Project, which is also funded by ARPA in the amount of $50,275. And the next one would be certificate number 2, which is a final payment to Moore Construction for Schoolhouse Lane, which again is an ARPA project in the amount of $78,731.84. Then we have one financial release, certificate number 3, a final to Lennar OHB LLC for the Town Center Crossing. This is the townhouse development behind Home Depot. So this has been here for a while, and that's a $50,000 release. And then we have authorization to advertise bids. We have 4 of those for the barn restoration project for Bush Hill Farm. It's where the goats are residing. This was previously open bids twice and rejected twice. The scope of work was changed to control the cost, so hopefully we'll get some better pricing. Next one being the Newland Carter Way Stream Bank Restoration, which again is an ARPA project. Third one being the sludge hauling contract for 3 years. It's our sewer department hauling sludge, get a 3-year contract. And the final one is the public sewer connection to the township building. And I guess we're going to go right into H, awarding bids. So the Sharpless Farm Evergreen Drive traffic calming enhancements. 4 bids were received on September 27th, and we have a recommendation to award to Albert Cipollone Jr. and Sons in the amount of $238,504.96. And this, again, is an ARPA project. And the main sewer plant UV upgrades, which we have a letter from our sewer engineer recommending that we reject the general construction bid and take no action on the electrical bid at this time. He's suggesting that council makes a motion to authorize the immediate rebid of the general contract. Then hopefully we can get some competitive pricing and award both at our November meeting. And I think that's it.
And we have to accept as complete for filing the following application. Target for a conditional use application amendment request for the storage of the trailers at the rear of the building, especially during the holiday season. Mr. Donahue, we'll have a hearing on this. I think since this is just a amendment request to the existing conditional use, I don't think we need to send this to the county planning department or any other planning department for that matter. It's more of an administrative function of the elected board, if I'm not mistaken.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, ARPA project updates, Nate, Amanda?
Frankly, I think we covered everything tonight in one capacity or another, so unless there's any questions, I think we got them all covered here. A lot of good progress.
Okay, I'm glad to see the Schoolhouse Lane is open.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Lane is open, operational. We've got one signage issue that we're resolving with the fire company, but so far, so good.
Okay. Octorara Trail update, you two again.
Yeah, Octorara Trail, we continue to have monthly progress meetings on that. Right now, we are working with PICO, Sunoco, and obviously SEPTA on pinning down agreements and design parameters. So again, we're in process on that redesign that's been directed by SEPTA and PICO. So again, Amanda is keeping us honest with monthly progress meetings to make sure we're keeping everything moving forward.
Okay. Next is Resolution 33 of 2024. This is a resolution of Concord Township accepting the deed of dedication for the sanitary sewer facilities. This walks hand in hand with the financial release to Lennar. This is the townhome community that's directly behind the Home Depot. This has been out there for a while. Looks like it's been from 2019, and we're finally getting around to get the final dedication.
Yeah, that's in concert with the developers,
okay.
right? So
Yes, yes.
after things are done, they reach back out, and
right.
so here's where we're at.
Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 33 of 2024?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Recodification update of the Township Codes Adoption Process Plan Hearing. This sounds very, very sophisticated. So Amanda, in 20 words or less, what do we got?
The quick story is, I wish this were done before you hired me. No, I'm kidding. This is the heavy lift that we have been trying to do since the township became a home rule charter. So our entire code needs to be updated, and we do that with these companies who basically are paralegals and legal folks who go through every square inch of your code and update it to make sure everything's in accordance with law and our new home rule charter. So myself and Hugh, over the last couple years, have been working through a lot of the back and forth with the codifiers. We are at the point now where they've just given us a draft. We are now tasked again with going back through to make sure that it meets what was supposed to be done. And then we hope from there to have a hearing that would encompass all of these changes. And then from there, it gets codified. And that way, everything you see under new laws currently would get folded in to the actual document, and then anything moving forward that passes has a normal where it holds for a little bit in new laws and then gets codified after a couple months. So we're moving along.
We do not need action on that, that's just for the information.
I
of
just wanted to
council
make
and the
sure
board
everybody knew we are
and the
doing
public.
it.
Okay, next is to authorize an advertisement to the subdivision and land development ordinance regarding landscaping and the trimming of trees. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Orchard Knolls Stormwater HOP PennDOT forms. Nate?
Yeah, we've got two on the agenda tonight. Unfortunately, with PennDOT, anytime a land development or applicant is coordinating a PennDOT HOP that includes any sort of storm sewer component, PennDOT about 7 or 8 years ago essentially issued an edict saying that they would not take on ownership and maintenance. It would be the responsibility of the municipality. So what we now have done is a cumbersome process of coming up with essentially separate agreements with the various landowners, somewhat unique in each instance, on how to handle that maintenance going forward. Sometimes we'll take it on, sometimes they'll give us money towards it, different scenarios for each project. However, PennDOT needs this one form signed by Amanda and able for them to process the actual HOP permit. So what we've been doing is saying, putting that on the agenda so everybody's aware we're entering this agreement, authorizing Amanda to sign, and just making sure everybody's aware of it. For extra space storage, that project's already been approved. So this is a little bit more of an administrative issue. Orchard Knoll, they've only got preliminary approval and not final plan approval. So again, I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. But again, I wouldn't put this on the agenda at this point in time unless I felt comfortable that we were moving in the right, schedule and process. And again, it's this kind of classic circular reference we all get stuck in as engineers. This guy needs this part, who goes first, who goes second, how do you coordinate things? So again, putting both on the agenda for Amanda to sign and your authorization.
Okay, so your explanation of the, what it's actually doing is the same for both properties, but we need to handle each one differently.
Correct.
So let's handle Orchard Knoll. Is there a motion to approve Amanda, or authorizing Amanda to sign the Stormwater HOP PennDOT form?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Extra storage, same thing. Is there a motion to approve Amanda to enter into that agreement?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.